With an area of 500,000 square kilometers and a population of some 67 million, Thailand is comparable to France. Apart, that is, from its strong economic growth and some radically different environmental challenges. The family has a meeting arranged in the province of Chanthaburi, about 100 kilometers from the Cambodian border. The terrible tsunami of 2004 came as a reminder to the Thais that economic development is not enough to protect them from the wrath of nature.
Martin, you going to do your homework?
After 3 years on the road, Fred and Lord have learned that they have to give the children some moments of relaxation and simple games before getting back to classes, just like students the world over.
Martin Cebron, 5020200844.
Momo Irene, Momo there, Irene, Irene.
There are moo everywhere.
Momo, Madonna la de fin. Ia, ia, oh, and Donald for me as a horse. Ia, ia, oh.
The next day, the break for schooling is over, and Martin is back on his round-the-world mission, this time visiting the mangrove swamp of Kung Kraben. The Thai mangrove forest was long considered to serve no useful purpose, but in fact it acts as a natural barrier against tsunamis and forms a vast pool of biodiversity. The forests were being cleared until the 1980s, but are now protected by many NGOs. A journalist and manager of an eco-lodge, Bronwyn Evans has had a fascination with the mangrove forest for years. She guides the family deep into this natural labyrinth.
About 30 years ago, people were cutting down the mangroves because one reason was for charcoal. The mangroves make very good charcoal for cooking. And another reason was to build shrimp farms. Shrimp farms are very popular, do very well here, but they realized it was a big mistake because the mangroves are so important for many reasons, to keep the water clean, to protect the land, and as a nursery for the plants and animals of the sea. So about 30 years ago, the King of Thailand established this as a conservation area. And so the mangroves are not only protected, but they've been replanting, and every year more volunteers come and plant mangroves, and so now it's quite a dense mat all around the bay. The mangroves are the first step of the sea biosystem, because inside the mangroves there's just a huge amount of life, and it's feeding on the tiny plankton, the tiny microorganisms and plankton, and that's the first step of the chain, of the food chain in the sea. And those small animals are then eaten by bigger and bigger and bigger animals, and of course coming to humans as well. So we eat the bigger animals as well. So this is very, very important for the chain of food in the sea and the whole biosystem.
The tsunami in 2004 would have been much less destructive if the mangrove forest had not been destroyed. This prompted the inhabitants of the region to reconsider the value of this ecosystem. But that's not the only reason for protecting the mangrove. The incredible biodiversity of these forests never ceases to fascinate Bronwyn. Like, for example, these fireflies, whose larvae grow in the mud, providing protein for the crabs and shellfish before metamorphosing into adults, for the lucky ones.
This is like extrusion, or a product that the fireflies produce. And it's a little bit like an aphids, I think, that produces sticky goo. It's quite sticky. This is interesting, is that it's a sign that there's a lot of fireflies around here, and that's a sign of a healthy ecosystem in a mangrove.
Up until 2005, the mangroves of Kung Kraben were home to several specimens of manatee, and the royal charity that is working to restore the bay hope to encourage them back. Unfortunately, in the rest of Thailand, some 65,000 hectares of mangrove have been destroyed in recent years, mainly to make way for shrimp farms. This is a very lucrative activity, but one which creates a lot of pollution and which requires a huge amount of fish. Some biologists, like Takorn Kakai Kitawat, are trying to limit the damage by farming fish to be released into the ocean.
What is this place?
What is this site for?
This reserve bears the name Kung Kraben. It covers 5,000 square meters and is part of a project initiated by the King of Thailand for the protection of the environment and sustainable development. Our objective is to protect the ecosystem in this bay, which is mainly made up of mangrove forest. To achieve that, we have set up this center for raising fish, crabs, and other species that are threatened through the destruction of their habitat. It's a long-term project. Here the fish in these pools have already reached adult size and will soon be released into the sea. But before we can release them into the bay, we have to hatch eggs and rear the larvae that we have collected. They usually come from fish farms, but also from fishermen. For example, when they catch a female crab with lots of eggs, they give them to us. A crab can carry up to 1 million fertilized eggs, but many won't survive. So in the nursery, we raise them to then release them into the sea. That is very useful for the ecosystem and also in the long term for the local people who live off fishing.
Once released, the fish and crab from the center will have to learn to live alongside other wild animals and to be wary of humans. Martin, Shin, Lor, and Fred go on their way and leave the mangroves behind to head out to sea, heading for the island of Koh Chang, half an hour from the mainland. Twice the size of Paris, Koh Chang is the third biggest island in Thailand. It is almost entirely covered in tropical forest and has been part of the Mu Koh Chang National Park since 1982. It attracts an ever-growing number of tourists.
We're on the island of Koh Chang, and that means the island of elephants.
I hope we're going to see some elephants.
Yes.
You want to see some elephants, Jean?
Yes.
Elephants have long been used in Thailand to work in forestry. In 1989, to put a halt to illegal deforestation, a law was introduced banning their use in the forest. Many owners have since converted to tourism, a practice that is sometimes controversial.
We're going to get on that one at the back, and we're going for a ride.
The elephants are sometimes mistreated and can be loaded with more than 6 tourists sitting in a heavy cradle, suffering in silence to satisfy their owners' greed. Many organizations are calling for an end to this kind of abuse, which happily doesn't seem to involve the elephants on this farm.
Where are we going?
We're going to wash the elephants in a river.
What do you think?
It's pretty neat. This is the first time I've been on an elephant in the water.
Was it good?
Yes, it sprayed me with its trunk.
Back to the tarmac of the mainland and Thai capital, some 300 kilometers from Koh Chang Island.
Here we are in Bangkok, a name that's always captured my imagination. But with a big truck like ours, we'll have to save the visit for another time. We're going to try and get away to the south, towards Malaysia, and avoiding the city centre at all costs.
Martin and his family are starting out a journey of 1,600 kilometers, taking them from Bangkok to Kuala Lumpur in the south of the Malaysian peninsula. Located just 200 kilometers from the equator, the capital of Malaysia is renowned for its heat and humidity. In just 25 years, Malaysia has gone from the status of a developing country to that of a developed one, thanks to the rapid modernization of its transport and communications infrastructure. But this modernization has not altered the city's stifling climate, which has been accentuated by global warming. To get acclimatized, Martin and his family take the temperature of Kuala Lumpur from the top of a tower 270 meters tall.
What can you see?
I can see a swimming pool.
Back down to earth, Martin, Sheen, Laura, and Fred decide to go and do some shopping in a rather special place. The One Utama Shopping Center is the fourth biggest shopping mall in the world, and it is above all the air conditioning which has brought the family here. Part of the interior atmosphere is due to a tropical forest, and the center's director, Alfred Xiong, is proud to show them around.
When we have a shopping complex, we wanted people to feel the nature, instead of cutting down 1,000 acres. We want people to feel the nature in the shopping complex. That's why we created this park. We create lakes, we create waterfalls and things like that, so that when you come in, you can hear the water. It's very smoothing, you see.
This little patch of nature is very handy to keep the customers cool during the sales. But it also regulates the heat and allows the mall to make a 30% saving on its air conditioning bill.
This is the rooftop. Every building you see have a flat roof. So what happened is we decided to build a garden on top to cut down the heat of the roof. But to do that, the weight come into play because we have problems with the roof was not designed to carry any weight, you see. So that's why we designed the carbon. So this is what we call carbon, you see, with the horticulture carbon. So the horticulture carbon is light, so they don't hold water, you see. We have a very unique rain harvest system, we call it. When it rains, it go around the circle, and then we catch all the water and it go into our basement tree where we have a big water tank. And when we need to use it, we pump it back up and for irrigation purposes.
With installations like this, the rain can meet most of the water needs of a city located in a humid zone.
You look at the building over there, you see all our buildings are all glass nowadays, you see. So when you have the glass, the sunlight shine on it, it reflects, you see. It reflects all the light back. But the light have to hit at the next building will reflect the light to the other one. So as you go along, it heat up the environment, you see. So that's why it get very hot. And at the same time, when it get very hot, you emit more.
So green roof can stop this process?
Oh yeah, it does. I have a building. You see those creepers run right along the building. when they reflect it, so we absorb, you see, so we absorb all the light.
The plants in this garden were not chosen by chance. They are the best at absorbing the ambient heat and humidity. They're also used in the children's life science classes.
Being educational, we have to cover all the aspects, you see. So we have plot that we grow rice, so that the children can understand herbs, and we grow peppers, so that not many children, they've seen peppers before, you see. So when they come up here, they can pick the peppers when they arrive. We allow them to do that. So you can access to our area, and then see the plant itself, and then you can pick some of the fruits.
These are papayas.
Papayas which grow on the roof of a building. That's incredible.
What will be the future?
Well, the future, you can have all rooftop garden like that. So the creation of a rooftop garden to feed people is not a problem at all. We have tried, and you can see that most of the plants are growing very well here.
Today, it is estimated that roofs account for 20% of the area in cities. So much wasted space that could be rendered useful for biodiversity, the climate, and the inhabitants. But it's not just the big shopping centers which are going green in Kuala Lumpur. Martin and his family have an appointment with the architect Tan Lok Moon, designer and owner of an amazing house.
We're going to visit the first house to obtain a green certification in Kuala Lumpur. It's this way.
This house has obtained the highest ecological distinction for a Malaysian building. The principal criteria for this label is energy efficiency. Tan Lok Moon gave a lot of thought to the orientation of his house to minimize heat absorption and at the same time making the most of natural sunlight.
Basically, the house is orientated north-south because in the tropics and in most parts of the world, the east and west are the hottest parts. A lot of sun is gained through there. In the tropics, the main thing is to keep the heat out. The main energy used in the house in the tropics is to cool the house down. So by orientating it north-south, having big windows like this that open fully, and having a water feature at both ends, it actually allows cross-ventilation. And as the wind blows through it, and there's a water feature on both ends, it picks up the water molecules, it comes through, lands on your skin, the wind blows through, and it gives you a cooling effect.
And after you go to the swimming pool?
The swimming pool is at the other end. Both sides, the walls fully open up. And by having the fountain, or by disturbing the surface of water, you actually increase the surface area for the wind to flow through and pick up more molecules. So this is a totally cross-ventilated house.
Another important ecological criteria is recycling waste. Tan Lok Moon used the stones of the former building demolished on his land to construct his new house. The shelves of his bookcase are also made from offcuts.
This is plywood. All our plywood in the whole world comes in 4 feet by 8 feet. But all the doors that we make in Malaysia are 3 feet by 7 feet. So there's always 1 foot wasted. This 1 foot of plywood is usually thrown away, burned, or they break it up for chipboard. So what I did was I took the additional 1 foot from all this wastage and I asked them to make bookshelves for me. In Malaysia, our steel has 90 to 95% recycled content. If you don't believe it, when you leave a piece of steel by the roadside, it gets taken or stolen very fast because it goes into a recycling business. And it's a good business for some people. So in Malaysia, when you use steel, you know that 95% of it comes from recycled content.
The water supply has not been neglected in Tan's house. There's a system to collect and filter the rainwater, which provides most of the house's supply.
These are my rainwater harvesting tanks. So what happens is the rainwater is collected on this big canopy roof, like a tree. It goes into that pipe, goes through a filter system, and comes into the tanks. The tanks are used, the rainwater is used for all the toilets, for car washing, for gardening. And I'm going to add a few more as well, because I still got space here.
Tan Lok Moon no longer even needs air conditioning, usually a ubiquitous feature in Malaysian houses. The architect has installed an ingenious natural cooling mechanism on the roof.
This is my invention. I use a simple turbine and I combine it with a glass house or pyramid. And I have light tubes that go all the way down to the whole house. They are ventilation and light tubes. So what happens is, you feel it now, it's very hot. The air inside heats up, and the moment I got 3 to 5 degree difference, the turbine starts to turn by itself. I don't need the wind. They are very cheap to make. 700 ringgit, you get a free ventilation. The expensive one is that one. That's solar panels. And I got solar hot water heating as well.
Tan Lok Moon's clever ideas go beyond just architecture. A while back, he decided to replace his pet dogs and cats with wild chickens that roam wild, thereby fertilizing the ground and eating insects.
I have a lot of jungle fowl. Jungle fowl are basically the original chickens. Chickens you have all over the world, as they become engineered, they become more stupid. A jungle fowl can spot the food. So when you put a bowl of water and it's got mosquito larvae in it, the normal chicken cannot see it as food, but the jungle fowl picks up all the vermin. So it keeps pests down, it increases the chance of survival of the species.
Would you like to live here, Sheen? Why not? Isn't it good enough?
There are only 2 beds. 2.
That's because you didn't visit the 3rd bedroom. In fact, there are 3.
But there are 4 of us.
Ah, dear. But I can't sleep in the same room as Daddy.
Tan Lok Moon hopes to see more houses like his spring up around the country.